What's going on, guys? JayzTwoCents bringing you another graphics card video. Seems to be an awful lot of these lately. But that's okay because you guys like graphics card videos, I like graphics card videos, and I get a lot of complaints of people saying I do too much high-end hardware reviews. I have no idea where they get that impression. Unless you've been living under a rock, and maybe even if you haven't been, you may or may not have heard about the GTX 950, which is NVIDIA's new graphics card to replace the GTX 750 and 750 Ti. So today we're going to go ahead and talk about that because I get a lot of complaints from people saying I do too much high-end hardware, do stuff that we can afford. And I'm going to do the best I can to keep this from being a 30-minute video because we all know I tend to talk a lot, especially when I do stuff like Tech Talk with Jerry. We get really long-winded, we tend to get off subject, and we don't talk about things that are actually relevant, and then people are telling us that we should probably go ahead. And like there was this one time actually when I was in high school, I was in class and I was giving a presentation and the teacher told me to kind of keep it short because she's like, I know Jay that you tend to talk a lot and I didn't. Whether you're looking for a pump, reservoir, custom GPU block, or a complete loop in a box, AlphaCool's wide range of products can make your next water cooling adventure an easy one. Click the link in the description for more details. And so anyway, to keep a long story short, we'll go ahead and talk about this guy right here, the GTX 950. Now we're looking at the EVGA 950 for the win. So it's a little bit customized. It's even got a backplate on there. You know, I know the 980 was boxed long before I started giving them a hard time about there not being backplates on their top tier cards, long before the 980 Ti launched or the Titan X launched. It's kind of funny that, you know, we've got EVGA to start including backplates on their graphics cards, but it's just what's really funny about that is the fact that the 980 still doesn't have a backplate with it because those were like produced and boxed and warehoused long before the Jay's backplate movement really started to gain momentum. But anyway, the For the Win edition and higher on the 950 has a backplate. I do not believe the SC does. So same exact backplate you'd pretty much find on a 960. The cooler itself is pretty much identical to a GTX 960. It's just been adapted over to the 950. Because that's really what the 950 is a cut down GTX 960. That was one of the things that the 750 lacked was SLI support. So there were some folks out there who unfortunately bought a 750 and said, well, if I need more power later, I'll just get another one in SLI, and they didn't realize it doesn't support SLI. So that's a nice change to see. So the cooler, just like the GTX 960, features 3 copper heat pipes, which are long ways. They're not curving or going up and down, aluminum fins, and quite a few of them. In terms of power delivery, it only requires a single 8-pin PCI Express power, and it does have, at least the For the Win edition, does have 2 BIOS on here, a master and a slave. Now, I'm not sure, I understand why they're going with dual BIOS, in case you want to kind of tinker with it and hack it, or I guess, you know, you don't have to worry about bricking the card like I've done in the past on single BIOS cards. But I'm not too sure there's that many people out there who are going to go and try and do custom hacks or voltage mods to a 950. So to me, that just, it's like, hey, cool, it's got it, but I don't know why it has it, to be honest. I mean, I'm not going to hack a GTX 950. There's just no point in that. Now, the benchmarks are going to be in only 1080p, and the reason for that is all this card is meant for, 1080p and lower. It does not have a ton of CUDA cores. It's got 768 CUDA cores. It's got 6.6 Gbps GDDR5 memory. It has got, the base clock on this thing is 1044 megahertz, right? Or 1024 megahertz with a boost clock of 1188 from the factory. This one boosts much higher out of the box from EVGA because of the custom design on this. In fact, this one in my environment went to 1455 megahertz, and of course we did overclock that as well. But other than that, this is not a powerhouse graphics card. It's only got 2 gigabytes of VRAM. So keep this thing where it belongs, 1080p or under. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about those benchmarks.
Transition.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and get right down to it. So as you can see, the pricing of this guy is $179 for the For the Win edition. You can find 950s as low as $159. So compared to everything I've currently put through my test bench suite that I put together, it is the cheapest card of the bunch. Therefore, you should expect it to have the least performance of the bunch. So don't think that this card is going to go toe-to-toe with, like, say, the 380 or the 970. I mean, it's just not going to happen. All right, so for the core clocks, I got an extra 100 megahertz above the boost clock of 1455. It boosted to 1455 all on its own, and then without touching anything, so that's factory. And it stayed there too. It didn't throttle up and down as the test went on. So I got an extra 100 megahertz to 1555 I also got a plus 200 on the memory. And that does actually make a difference in these benchmarks, so I want to put that out there as well. The other thing to put out there is overclocking on this was done on Precision X16 5.3.7 on NVIDIA drivers 355.82. So those are brand new drivers, and I didn't notice anything weird except for one test, and we'll talk about that. Now, as you can see, it is the coolest air-cooled card of the bunch, 62 Celsius, while overclocked, under load. Did a great job. I mean, this cooler is doing very good, but the GPU is extremely efficient. It doesn't get hot. So as you can see here, 28 idle and a 62 max load. Now, as we go forward here with the tests, I did run Firestrike at normal, extreme, and ultra. I just want to see how it scaled. And as you can see here, we had a little bit of a jump from a 6942 to 7349 in normal, 3269 versus 3454 in extreme, and 1137 to a 1262 in 4K. So you can see the overclock did yield us obviously some results in all of the tests. Now moving forward, these tests are only going to be done in 1080p because that's where this card belongs. 1080p, and that's it. So don't think that this card is going to go toe-to-toe with anything else on this chart simply because it's just not placed to do that. The only card it's really intended to go head-to-head with, in my opinion, is the R9 370, which I'm still waiting on from AMD. They said they would send it to me a month ago. I haven't gotten it yet. Once it gets here, we will go back and redo these tests, and we will do a video directly comparing the 950 to the R9 370. Now, because I'm only doing one resolution, I went ahead and made this standard clock versus overclock, average FPS, and minimum FPS. That was a highly requested thing that I do, is include minimum FPS, so that's what we are doing here. Now you can see without overclocking, we got 29 FPS in Witcher 3 and 25 FPS minimum. That's actually a big deal considering it shows that there's not much swing between minimum and average, which gives you smoother perceived gameplay even at a lower FPS, so that is important. 32 versus 26 when overclocked. GTA 5, when overclocked, you can see we got pretty damn close to that magic 60 FPS number with 49 FPS minimum. Healthy boost over the stock clock of 1455 for 53 versus 44. So we got a pretty decent jump across the board. Metro Last Light, which is a static test here, you can see again when overclocked from 51 to 54. Now the minimums on Metro, you can kind of ignore that. These minimums happen in between some of the scenes where there's where the benchmark actually loads. It goes to a black screen and dips for a second. So that's why these minimums are so damn low. I've even seen these minimums go down into the single digits with high-end cards. So ignore the minimums here on Metro. Just like Witcher 3, Crysis 3 kind of gives this card a kick in the butt when at very high settings. I did not change the settings because in order for me to keep this card relevant compared to all of the other cards that I benchmark, the testing suite must remain the same. So I would rather take a low-end card like this and keep it on high settings to see what the worst case scenario is, than to take a high-end card and put it at medium settings and have the numbers be inflated through the roof. So this is why I left the settings at very high to show you worst case scenario. So if you bump this down to say medium settings in Crysis 3, you'd get much closer to the 60 FPS. You might not hit it, but you'd get much, much closer. Minimum FPS when overclocked, 26 FPS versus 38 average. Not a very good number for, the master race where we were like, we love 60 FPS or higher. But it does get the job done at very high settings. Drop those settings and enjoy much better frame rates. Far Cry 4, look at that. I experienced something weird with Far Cry. And this is probably new driver related, but every time I loaded the game, whether it be overclocked or not, the game crashed. So that's why we have no Far Cry benchmarks. And Battlefield 4, as you can see, as the game gets older, the lower end graphics cards have no problem running it above 60 FPS when at factory clocks, and 51 minimum, very good number. 50 minimum, this is all margin of error right here, obviously, when there's 1 FPS difference, but 70 FPS average when overclocked. So you can get into some fun gaming like Battlefield 4 on Ultra preset with 2x MSAA on a 950 graphics card and have no problems playing that whatsoever. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about some final thoughts. I will revisit these test case scenario to say at the price point, should you go with a 950 or should you go with a 370 from AMD? I'm curious. The base price of a 950 is about 159 bucks. This one comes in at $20 more at 179, which puts it only $39 less than, say, an R9 380. So as you saw from the benchmarks, you can get more performance out of a 380 than a 950, obviously, but at a higher price point. And we could say that all day long, right? Well, you know, at a 380 only costing $219, if you only spent $40 more, then you could get, you know, like a 390. And we can do that all the way up to the Titan X. So it's up to you to decide what your max dollar you're willing to spend is. I can't do that for you. You guys have to do that. Now I achieved 1555 megahertz, which is 100 megahertz higher than the boost clock went automatically without me touching anything. And there was an increase in performance with that 100 megahertz. That's a decent percentage, especially when you look at where the base clock is on this at 1024 megahertz. So you're getting over 500 megahertz boost, or over 50% improvement over where the base clock was. In fact, if we ran this thing only at 1024 without a boost clock, it would be a gutless pig. It's still, at high settings, was not doing massive FPS, but again, that's high settings. I wanted to keep it static with the same suite, the way I run all my tests the same. So if you bump down the settings on this card, you'd get even higher FPS. This card is not intended for even high settings at 1080p or very high or ultra settings. But at least I showed you guys what the worst case scenario would possibly be. Now we're gonna just kind of slide right into the subjective part of this review, where I say, I don't really know why this card exists. I mean, they're marketing this card towards MOBA gamers. Games like League of Legends and Dota 2 and games like that, where you don't need a lot of horsepower to run those games. You really don't. They're not graphically intensive. And the 960 already does that. That's what they've said the 960 was designed for. And I'm not sure that this card offers enough performance increase at its current price point to say that it makes sense to jump from something like, say, a 750 Ti into a 950, when games like League of Legends are already running fine on cards like the 750 Ti, or even like the 270 or 270X on AMD. I'm not sure a lot of people are going to really jump out and buy a 950 to get marginal increases. I thought, honestly, when we got the notice that we're going to be seeing a new graphics card, that we were going to be seeing the 960 Ti or something like that, because they've done this in the past with the 660 Ti. It was stronger, more CUDA cores, more aggressive overclocking, and did fantastic in RPGs and FPS and simulators, and just really kind of slid right in between some of the mainstream and enthusiast type of graphics cards. So you guys tell me, does the 950 make sense to you? Now I'm going to go back and review this card, comparing it directly to the R9 370. I think that's, I mean, when it comes to the entry-level market and graphics cards, those two are going to be probably duking it out like, Frazier and Muhammad Ali. I mean, it's going to be a hell of a battle, especially since that's the more reasonable price point that a lot of people are looking at with graphics cards, which is $200 or less. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video. Tell me how you think about this card. Do you think it really fits in with this space that it's currently at? You guys tell me. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching this review of the GTX 950 for the win from EVGA. As always, hit me up on the social media. It's right over here. If you guys don't want to do any of that, well, then we'll just go ahead and talk to you at the next video. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.